Welcome to another episode of Post Grad with Asha NCE edition. This video will be the start of me discussing theories and key stakeholders in the development of psychology with a hint of sample questions at the end. This video will focus on Alfred Adler. So my name is Asha Creary. I am a licensed professional counselor supervisor in the state of Texas and in the state of Missouri. I thoroughly enjoy teaching. I currently hold a National Counselor Certificate, a Texas Educator Certificate, and I hold the Registered Play Therapist distinction. All right, so who is Adler? Adler used to be closely associated with Freud in 1902, but around 1911, Adler severed ties with Freud and developed individual psychology. Alfred Adler downplayed Freud's basic contention that sexual conflicts in early childhood cause mental illness, and he further came to confine sexuality to a symbolic role in human strivings to overcome feelings of inadequacy. He asserted that what an individual is born with or into is not the determining factor in one's development. Rather, the endeavoring to reach individual goals determines an individual lifestyle and behavior. One is always becoming or trying to achieve one's self-ideal or ideal self. Adler believed that life is a courageous endeavor that requires a willingness to take risks without knowing the outcome. Well-adjusted individuals participate in interdependent and cooperative relationships. So, he was known for individual psychology, and he introduced the inferiority feeling, which was later coined inferiority complex. So, what did he overall contribute to society, right? So the first thing is going to be birth order. I don't remember which one came first, birth order or the inferiority complex, but we're going to start with birth order for this video. Adler contributed birth order to having an impact on a child's personality and their characteristics. So what you see here is a diagram. I think it's an extended diagram. I don't believe his original conversation around birth order included 4. I think it was just 3 main key birth order categories, which include first, middle, and last. So oldest children are usually high achievers. They're usually dependable. They're hardworking. They're parent pleasing. They're conforming. They're well behaved, typically. They may have underlying insecurity from being displaced by the second child. The second child is usually outgoing, less constrained by rules, seems to be in a race to surpass the older sibling, and often excels at what the firstborn does not. The middle child. The middle child becomes overconcerned with perceived unfairness as he, she, or they feel squeezed out. They can become a problem child, they thrive in family politics and negotiations, and they may become manipulative. All right, the youngest child. They're usually adept at pleasing or entertaining the family. They're often high achievers. They tend to go their own way in life around their own areas of development that no other family has ever even considered. And they typically run the risk of being spoiled. The only child is usually a high achiever, like an oldest child. They deal well with adults. They may be slow in developing social skills. They may be pampered or spoiled. It usually applies. So an only child can also be considered a child that has siblings 7 years apart or more. So if I'm 7 and my youngest sibling is 0 or 0 months, right? 2 weeks old, they would technically fall under the only child considerations or category. If I'm 7 and my oldest sibling is 18, I technically would fall under the only child category. So keep that in mind when thinking about this particular model. So from this diagram, you might want to look for a diagram that has all of these in it. But what you heard me talk about was the first child, the middle child, the second child, the last child or the youngest child, and then the only child. So technically that was 5 different categories. But when you think about Adler, you're probably only going to see first, middle, and last. So you want to make note of first, middle, and last. Even if the oldest, like let's say the first child is 8 years older than the second child, they probably fall under the only child category. but for the sake of your exam, first, middle, and last is what you're going to really want to focus on. And you just want to make a mental note about the only child and how the only child is categorized as far as like the gaps in age. All right, what are the two types of complexes that exist according to Adler? So there's two. There's the inferiority complex, where a person has an inability to solve their life problems. They feel stuck. I can't overcome the struggles that I have. Then there's the superiority complex, which is an exaggerated opinion of one's abilities and accomplishments in an attempt to compensate for the inferiority complex. So this is a person who thinks that everything is beneath them, that they are superior to all things around them, or that their circumstance or their situation is more superior than what it actually is. So those are the two types of complexes when it comes to thinking about Adler. Adler believed that the goal in life is to strive for superiority. Lifestyle is a unique set of behaviors created to compensate for inferiority and achieve superiority. Okay, so keep that in mind. People are more likely to be going between these two complexes in life when you think about Adler. So think Adler complex. Adler showed up to the apartment complex. I don't know if that helps. I'm just throwing things out there, right? Adler showed up to the apartment complex. All right. And when you think complex, think superiority and inferiority. Inferiority, feelings of inadequacy. I don't feel adequate enough, or I don't feel like I am adequate in fulfilling my life's goals or purposes. Superior, this is beneath me. These things are under me. My situation is better than what it actually is. Okay. So what he's basically saying is that everybody strives to have a more superior life, or a superior life, or a life that is more than what it actually is right now. That's what he's saying. And what he's also saying is that your lifestyle, how you present in the world, is a unique set of behaviors created to compensate for feeling inferior in whatever the circumstances are for you in your life. All right, so what did he say about kids being pampered and kids being neglected? Being pampered as a child or being neglected as a child has a negative effect on a person as they grow older. So when you think about Adler and children and what being spoiled or what being neglected, what impact that has on kids, their developmental outcomes, or however you want to describe that statement, you're going to want to think of two things that you probably have always heard when it comes to pampered or spoiled children. What they say, spoil the rod, spoil the child. Okay, so what that means is spoiled has a negative connotation. So if someone is being pampered or spoiled, Adler believed that it has a negative effect on the person as they grow older. In society, we see society say that all the time. Oh, they're just spoiled. They're just rich. They don't know how to interact with other people. They think that their world is this and this. And, oh, they're a bad person because they got all this money. They're able to cover up their scandals, whatever society says. Just think about that when you think about a child being spoiled in Adler. Adler believed that spoiled children will have a negative being spoiled has a negative effect on a child as they grow older. Same with being neglected. We've all heard of adverse childhood experiences. Now, although that is not directly related to Alfred Alfred Adler, you want to make sure that you keep in mind that what we know about adverse childhood experiences is that they have a negative effect on a person as they grow older. Now, again, the adverse childhood experiences are not connected to Adler, but I'm using that as a way to kind of help you connect and remember and connect the dots between information between theories and theorists and different things that you've read in the psychology space. So pampered or spoiled children, those things are negative. Those things can and will have a negative effect on children, according to Alfred Adler. The next thing is Adler believed that by the age of 5, a child's interpretations of life's events are set, since the child has been taught by that time to perceive things through subjective evaluations presented in their evaluations with family members. So what he's saying is, by the age of 5, they will be perceiving things based on what they are taught between the ages of 0 months and 5 years of age within their family system or unit. Adler also called the perceptions that guides a child's behaviors are fiction, and that mistakes such as overgeneralizing can be caused by a child's fictional belief that everything is the same or alike. All right, so Alfred Adler believed what? Now that we're going to get into the sample questions. So I'll read these out loud. I think I had got feedback that some people are listening to it while they're driving, so they want to hear it. So I'm gonna read it again. Alfred Adler believed A, being pampered has a positive effect as a person grows older. B, the goal in life is to strive for inferiority. C, by age 5, a child's interpretation of life events are set. Or D, feelings of inferiority comes from making minimal mistakes. I'll give you about 10 seconds to think about that if you don't already have the answer. All right, so he believed by age 5, a child's interpretation of life events are set. Remember, he said that he believed that those things are set based on the interactions or the information that they're taking in by their family unit or their family system or their family members, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, so A, being pampered has a positive effect as a person grows. That is false. He did not believe that to be true. He believed that it had a negative effect on children, and it also related to pampered and neglected children, not just pampered children. B, strive for inferiority is false. He believed that people were striving for superiority. So if you know the difference between the vocabulary terms, that should help you determine if the answer is right or wrong, just in general. For example, inferiority, inferior, not who I'm not living up who I need to live up to be. Like, I'm not living up to my ideal self. So I am inferior, which means I am not adequate. People don't strive to be inadequate. Just if you think about yourself, if you think about other people, nobody strives to feel inadequate, okay? We strive to feel superior to others, according to Adler. So if you think about where you are in life and why you were striving for those things, a lot of the time it is rooted in, I want to be better. I want to do more. I want to be this ideal person, or I don't want to be in this circumstance. I want to be in a more superior experience or situation. So keep that in mind. All right. And then feelings of inferiority comes from making minimal mistakes. We know that that's not true. He didn't even mention making mistakes. What he mentioned for inferiority is ideal self. Someone is not living up to their ideal self. They cannot seem to get where they're trying to go. Therefore, they feel inferior. So if you know the difference between the definitions, you know that that is wrong, period. All right, question number 2. According to birth order, the middle child is more likely to exhibit or develop which of the following characteristics? They, A, high achievers, B, manipulative, C, they're going to be great with adults, or D, they're going to be dependable. So I'm going to give you about 5 to 10 seconds to answer that question. All right, manipulative. Middle child, MMM. That child is mad. That child is manipulative. Think about if you have multiple siblings, think about the middle child in your family. Think about the middle children in other units of your family, like your maybe not your family dynamics, maybe it's just you and a sibling, so there is no middle child. But if you think about maybe you have a sibling that has children and they have 3 or 5 children and they have a true middle child, then you're gonna see these behaviors. Usually birth order does show up how we think it shows up even today. So middle children, MMM, that child is mad, they're bad, they're manipulative. Think M, manipulative. Middle child, that child is mad, okay? All right, so if we look at the other options, so high achievers typically tend to be the oldest child, the youngest child, or the only child. Children that are typically good with adults are typically the only child. And then kids or children that are typically dependable, or the birth order is typically the only child. They're typically more dependable than a household with multiple children. All right, next question. Which of the following is true of the information below? Birth order is not as important as environment for children. Firstborn children are so overwhelmed helping with younger siblings, they oftentimes are unhappy. Children oftentimes engage in human modeling, and birth order affects personality, according to Adler. So keep in mind, we're still talking about Adler. All right. The answer is D as in Delta. All right. So birth order is not as important as environment for children. We have never even heard Adler say anything about the environment having an impact on children. He's not someone that argued nature versus nurture necessarily. He hinted that the family unit plays a role in a child's development or their beliefs about certain situations up until the age of 5, but he never mentioned anything about environment having a role in a child's environment. B as in boy or Bravo. Firstborn are normally happy and secure. So you're not going to necessarily see that firstborn children are overwhelmed, not from this model. That may be very much well true when you have firstborn children operating in the capacity of a parent. But if we stick to just the facts, just the basics of the model itself, firstborn children are normally happy and secure. C as in Charlie, children oftentimes engage in human modeling. Human modeling is a thing. It is a process of representing something through language, which is a neuro-linguistic programming concept developed by Adler and Grinder, but there's nothing that necessarily explicitly states that children engage in human modeling oftentimes. This is just one way in which children can express themselves, again, through neuro-linguistic programming. All right, and so again, the correct answer is birth order. It has an effect on personality, according to Adler. Last sample question for Alfred Adler. Which of the following children are typically miracle babies of the family? The answer choices are firstborn, only child, secondborn, or lastborn. All right, only children. Now, lastborn children, according to society, are typically coined as the accident baby. Only children are typically miracle babies, especially if a family tried time and time again. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so that's it for our discussion on Alfred Adler. I don't know why his name is a tongue twister for me, but it is. So I always have to slow down when I'm saying it, or I have to scrunch my face up to make sure I don't mess up the name. But for this particular video and this particular theorist, you want to keep in mind individual psychology, and you want to also keep in mind, there's 3 things. Individual psychology. You want to keep in mind the 2 different types of complexes: inferiority complex and superiority complex. Yeah, superiority complex. Sorry, y'all. And then you want to keep in mind a birth order. Those are the three things you need to keep in mind for Alfred Adler when it comes to taking your NCE exam. So thank you guys for watching. And I don't know who I'm going to go into next, but hopefully I can start pushing these videos out a little bit faster or sooner. I had a lot of onboarding and offboarding these past couple of weeks, so it has been taking me a while to get these videos up. But thank you again for watching, subscribing, and please feel free to ask any questions. If I make any mistakes here and there or in between, do not hesitate to correct me in the comments. I'm usually pretty good, but if something comes up where you notice a mistake or something, or feedback, just general feedback, please let me know, because I want to make sure that I make these videos in a way that everybody can kind of receive them, and in a way in which you guys feel confident in watching the video. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Post Grad with Asha, NCE edition. And I hope these few slides were helpful in solidifying what you already know about Alfred Adler.